listening to Footscray Live.
You're listening to Footscray Live.
Welcome everyone, broadcasting live from Footscray City College. You're listening to Footscray Live. My name is Hannah, and with me today I have Yasmin, Archie and Jolie. And our special guest today is Katie Hall.
Hello.
So you are a state member of Footscray in the Victorian Parliament.
I am.
And you're a young woman with a family.
I am, yes.
What drew you to politics?
Look, I've always been involved in community activism since I was about your age, actually. I first got involved in politics when I was 15, and that was when Pauline Hanson first got elected to the Senate about 20 years ago. I'm showing my age now. And I didn't like her brand of politics, and so I started going to protests, and it was also at a time when schools were being closed down in Victoria, and my parents were both teachers, and one of the schools that was closed down was the original Footscray High School.
Yeah.
And so being involved in that kind of activism I found really rewarding, and it gave me a way to express my opinions about the kind of community we want to live in.
So you often visit schools in Footscray. Is education your top list of priorities for the area?
Yeah, education is my absolute passion. As I said, both of my parents were educators. My dad, Footscray, born and bred, and mum taught locally as well.
Yeah.
And I think that education, high quality public education, is the great leveller. You know, if you have access to a first class state school and you receive a good education, there's nothing you can't achieve.
With school that you were talking about, with the new Footscray precinct that's at Gilmore, how do you think that will improve Footscray?
Look, this is a massive investment from the Victorian government. So far there's been about $80 million invested in the Footscray Learning Precinct. So obviously this will be a campus here at Kinnear Street, and I think that's going to be incredible. The new campus with the intake of Year 7s at Barclay Street next year, and the enrolments have been really good. So there's about 310 new Year 7 students starting at Footscray High.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And of course the new Seddon campus as well. So I think what it's going to do is it's going to it'll transform the way education is delivered locally, because you'll have educational facilities for all ages and stages, from early childhood all the way through to Victoria University being part of the precinct, and that's really innovative. It's the only model of education of its type in Australia, so it's very exciting for the students, the young people of Footscray.
Yeah.
So what's the most rewarding thing about your work?
Every day in my job is an adventure. I get to do great things like this.
Yeah.
Visiting schools, I think, has to be one of my favourite things, but it's also very rewarding. Every dollar that gets spent in this community, and everything I get to fight for and secure is really rewarding. So last week I came here and I announced that we would be able to provide $13,000 for Footscray High to have a new bike shed.
I was there when you were.
Yeah. So even things like that, and that's not a huge amount of money in the scheme of things, but that came from a letter from your SRC. They wrote to the government and said, we need a new bike shed, and I was able to advocate for that money and talk to the Minister's office and say this is a really important issue for the students of Footscray City College and soon to be Footscray High School, and we were able to organise it. So that's very rewarding.
So that's kind of on the opposite from that, what is the most challenging thing about your job?
Oh, there's many challenging aspects to the job. I suppose, look, as a new Member of Parliament, and I was elected in November last year, I've found social media has been pretty challenging.
Yeah, of course.
So, people give their opinions pretty freely on social media, and sometimes unfortunately, people can forget that you're a real person at the other end of some of those messages. And it's very hard to kind of communicate complex issues
of course.
through those mediums. But it also means that politics has changed so much in the last 10 years. So politicians in the past, the way you would communicate with your MP is you would ring their office or send them a letter. Yeah. Now I get messages on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. So you are accessible to the public all of the time, and that's a great thing, but it can also be a challenging thing to deal with.
Do you think that social media, it's a positive impact or a negative impact?
Overall positive, I'd say. I think social media connects people in a way that, we never used to be able to stay in touch with friends and family and people we went to school with. And it's been a great connector for this community as well. There's lots of amazing organisations that run through social media. So if you think about groups like West Welcome Wagon, and even through to upcycling and recycling things in a West by Swap and Sale, you can just and that's really positive. But it can have its downsides too.
You said before that you're really into helping the education system. Is there anything else that you would you want to change or help?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that every student in this community, and my electorate, even though it's called Footscray, it actually extends all the way out to Sunshine West. I want to make sure that every single student, every single young person has the opportunity to go to a great local school. And we are spending unprecedented amounts of money on rebuilding schools, and I just want to keep working on that, making sure every school gets the funding and the investment that it deserves.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge in Footscray in the next 10 years?
I think our growth. I think our growth is absolutely the most challenging thing because, as you'd know, just opposite here on Kinnear Street, there's a huge number of apartments that are being built. And same down in the Josephs Road precinct. And it's really good that people can live close. We've got good public transport locally, and, Melbourne is becoming more dense. But we just need to make sure that we have all of the infrastructure that can support that growth.
Yeah, of course.
And also that the growth happens in a nice way. You want the apartments to look nice. You want the apartments to be built with open space and community infrastructure. So that's incredible. When you think about, so there's a statistic Maribyrnong Council have published, which is that our growth is forecast to increase by 140% by 2040. So that's massive.
If you're just tuning in, I'm Hannah and we're on Footscray Live with our special guest, Kate Hall.
You said that there's so many more apartments going up and people coming in. What are some of the ways you're going to tackle double the amount of people coming into Footscray?
Yeah, so investment in infrastructure is really important. So I know that getting on the train in the morning, it can be pretty crowded. So things like building the Metro Tunnel. Tunnel's going to really benefit Footscray. So you're going to be able to go to Footscray Station and you can either go through the loop, the current city loop, or you'll be able to go through the new Metro Tunnel, and that's going to increase our train capacity by around 60%.
Wow.
Oh, that's really good, yeah.
So huge for the Sunbury line. And unfortunately, whenever you build a big project like that, there's a fair bit of pain you've got to get through before you can reap the benefits, I guess. The other big project is the new Footscray Hospital project, which will be just down the road from here. And that's a $1.5 billion project. Wow. And that is an eye-watering amount of money. It's the largest capital investment in a hospital in Victorian history, and it's happening in Footscray, and so that's very exciting.
That's really cool.
And that'll increase the capacity. So there'll be more beds than the current hospital. They'll be able to treat a lot more patients. It's going to have an increased mental health capacity, and Footscray needs that.
Yeah, it does. So what do you love most about Footscray?
You can never be bored in Footscray, I don't think. You
Yeah,
know,
sure.
if you've we've got the best food in Melbourne. We have some of the best arts industries and creative industries based in Footscray. I'm really passionate about live music. That's one of the things I love. And, you know, you can go out in Footscray, have some of the best food in Melbourne, see some great music. It's a really great place to live. And I think the rest of Melbourne has finally caught on to that, don't you think?
Yeah, it has.
Being a woman in politics, there have been stories how we aren't respected as we should be. Have you ever experienced that? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
I have, and sometimes I mentioned social media before. You can get some. So I sometimes get anonymous messages that perhaps my male colleagues wouldn't receive. So, look, but I do think things are improving.
Yeah.
You know, I think so the Andrews government, we have our first gender neutral cabinet. So, you know, half the ministers in cabinet are women. We have people of all ages and stages of life in the parliament, and including a whole bunch of talented young women who are raising families, and, you know, those gender roles that perhaps persisted in the past where politics was, I guess, dominated by men.
Of course.
That's definitely changed.
Wonderful.
And that makes everything better. It makes the parliament a better place. It makes policy making and law making better.
Yeah.
Because you need people with all sorts of different perspectives.
Exactly.
So that's a really exciting thing. But yes, of course, you do sometimes deal with, you know, a bit of sexism, I suppose. Yeah.
So politicians in general aren't always respected, and especially by young people.
Yes.
Why should young people listen to what politicians have to say?
Because you can affect change. And I think, you know, if we just use last week as an example, coming here and announcing the bike shed, that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the activism of the young people at this school who said, we need this, can you help us get it? You know, because I guess it's a cliche, but all politics is local, and young people absolutely can affect change in their community. I know it's easy to be cynical about politics. Sometimes I think what you see on the TV is probably the worst bits of politics. You probably see, you know, question time and people yelling at each other. And, but you know, 99% of the time the parliament is a productive place. It's a place where I've been astounded at some of the speeches I've been able to see and the passion and conviction that drives people from all sides of politics. You know, it'd be very rare to find a politician who isn't there because they want to affect change in their community.
Yeah. So with wanting to make changes, would you just simply email, who would you email?
Yeah.
Let's say I wanted to do something at the school or the precinct or something, and I wanted to ask.
Send me an email.
Just send you an email?
Yeah, that's right. You know, we have a saying in my office, the door is always open. Anyone from our community can come in and sit down and have a cup of tea and raise an issue with me, because that's what I'm there for.
Yeah, of course.
And if I'm not around, my amazing staff, who I think are listening to this in the office, they are there to help too.
That's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
How many people do you think come in a day or a week with problems or things they want to bring up with you?
Yeah, it depends on. I get lots of emails, so you know, I try and clear my emails by the end of the day, but every day I'll wake up and there'll be, you know, 40 to 50 new emails in the inbox. coming through the door, it kind of depends on what's going on. A lot of the issues we deal with in our office are around, public housing assistance. People come in for all sorts of reasons. So it does depend on what's going on. But, some days are very busy, some days are quiet.
Yeah.
If a young person desperately wants to make change or to become a politician in the future, what is a piece of advice that you would give them?
To back yourself. So have the strength of your convictions, and if you believe in something, and I said this in my first speech to the Parliament, you do it with clear eyes and a full heart. And that's actually a line from a TV show, which is before your time. It's called Friday Night Lights. But clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.
You were saying before that you have a passion for live music. Was that a career when you were younger that you were thinking of going into, or was it always going to be like helping youth and politics and things like that?
I actually wanted to be a journalist. So what you guys are doing here, and I was really interested in radio production as well. And I ended up working in various media roles, including, for Victoria Police in their media unit. I worked as a media advisor to Nicola Roxon, who was our local federal MP. I worked at the City of Melbourne in their media team, and never quite made it into journalism, but found different pathways to, marry both of those interests. So of the media and telling stories and politics.
Yeah.
So live music is a personal passion, and I think I started a live music working group, and we had a meeting last week. My parliamentary intern, who was you get uni students assigned to you to do research projects.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah. So my student, Dan, he wrote a live music strategy for Footscray. And the reason I asked him to do that was because I was worried about our venues closing down. So the Reverence closed down, the Dancing Dog closed down, and there's really positive signs that things are improving locally. But we just want to make sure. It sounds boring, but things like having live music venues, it depends on, you have to have the right planning laws, and you have to, so there's these kind of aspects to the creative industries that you wouldn't necessarily associate with it. So, and that's another issue with density and apartment growth. We need to make sure that people know that they're moving into a community where there is live music, and that they might be moving next door to a venue, and that venue was there first.
Yeah. So would you ever go back to like a job in media?
Look, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to being the member for Footscray for a while. Look, probably not. I enjoyed for a time having a radio spot on the ABC where every Friday, there'd be someone from the conservative side of politics, and then myself, and we used to debate issues of the week, and I really enjoy that. Yeah. But I kind of get to do that in my job now. So, but I'll always enjoy writing. I love writing.
Just what you were talking about before with the live music scene. Do you think with all these places closing down, like the Dancing Dog, that it's driving people away from performing in Footscray?
Yeah. Well, we have a very high proportion of musicians and artists who live locally, and it's really important to have spaces locally for them to, whether it's poetry or, performing arts or live music. We need to have the spaces so that they're not travelling to other parts of Melbourne.
Yeah.
And we don't lose that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm a like I want to be a musician when I'm older. So
Do
and I
you?
also
What do you
wanna-
play?
I play French horn.
Oh. Well, that's really interesting because Footscray actually has the proudest and most fascinating kind of long list of the best brass musicians
Yeah.
in Australia. And part of that is because of institutions like the Hyde Street Youth Band.
Yeah, I'm in that.
Oh, very good. Very good. And these are institutions that we absolutely should be celebrating,
Yeah.
Because Hyde Street has, produced some extraordinary musicians. And that's something, I don't know that many people would know about Footscray.
You say that you're really involved in schools and then you're also involved in live music. Do you think that there should be more funding or we should be continuing to grow young musicians in schools and keeping an arts program alive in high schools and primary schools?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a patron at Chasing Sounds at the music school on Barclay Street. And we have some really great music programs in our schools. Footscray City College is obviously a very creative school, and I always feel inspired when I leave here. But I think music is just as important as other subjects. And I know that Footscray City Primary School have a beautiful music program, and absolutely, I'd love every school to have a great music program.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Okay. This brings our segment to an end. Thank you for joining us, Kate.
Thank you so much.
My name is Hannah, and with me was Jolie, Yasmin, and Archie. This has been Footscray Live. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're listening to Footscray Live.